Institute of Medical and Biological Engineering is one of the largest research centres in Europe, and really we're addressing medical technology challenges for an ageing population. We're trying to keep people active and well and mobile for 50 active years after 50. We have about 3 or 4 main streams of work. One mainstream we've been working on for 20 years are longer lasting artificial joints. We also have the world's largest facility for preclinical testing of joint replacements to make sure their performance is enhanced and reliable before they're put into patients. Perhaps one of our most exciting areas is the areas of tissue engineering and regenerative medicine. And here we've developed novel acellular biological scaffolds which, when they're implanted in the patients to repair tissue, they regenerate with the patient's own cells. We've got around about 100 people in the core Institute of Medical and Biological Engineering, and they are engineers, they're biological scientists, and they're also clinicians. In the particular field of musculoskeletal medical engineering and joint replacements, we have the largest facility in the world. We work with industry in many different ways. We work with them collaboratively in fundamental discovery research, in training and developing young researchers who then go on to work in industry. Translation projects where we have developed scientific discovery and technologies, and we work with industry collaboratively to help them develop products. We have unique facilities here, and a number of industries come with their projects to work with us, provide them information and new knowledge about the performance of, let's say, a new knee joint.
One of the issues of total hip replacement, the bearing itself, is it wears out over time. So if you put the joint in 2 different people, one with the hip position perfectly aligned in them, and one in malpositioning, you get very high wear in this patient and could lead to failure and lots of other problems. But in a well-positioned one, it might last all their life. Because we developed these testing methodologies that replicate this malpositioning, if we can come up with a hip replacement that works very well under these conditions, we make sure that they will work even if they were slightly malpositioned in patients. We simulate a walking cycle to assess the wear of the hip bearing. So we put them on the machine and we introduce loading and motion to them. We put what's called newborn calf serum as a lubricant to lubricate these joints while running in the machine. And mainly we assess the wear on these products. So 1 million cycles on the machine would be representative of something between 6 months and 2 years in the body. So it takes 12 days to run 1 million cycles.
Our facilities for microcomputed tomography scanning are incredibly useful because they allow us to take really detailed 3-dimensional pictures of the various bones and bits of tissue that we're interested in. And they also allow us to build computer models from really detailed 3-dimensional images. It's something that we can use at the stage before things are put out into patients to be able to test the viability of different procedures and different materials that we might inject into the spine, for example. The spinal work is sort of 50% in the lab and 50% computer modelling in this area, and it allows us to check whether the computer models are correct. So having the 3-dimensional computer models or virtual models of the various specimens allows us to hold on to those specimens so that they can be reused for a lot of different projects and for a lot of different tests of procedures. And if we have computer models which show an osteoporotic or an older vertebra with poor bone and one for a younger vertebra, for somebody who has healthy bone, then that allows us to test procedures for different people.
The limiting factor in the longevity of artificial knee replacements is wear. So what we're trying to do is to look for new materials and new designs which can minimise the wear of those total knee replacements. The ISO standard is for an average patient who has a standard walking cycle and in which the implant has been perfectly surgically aligned, but actually in practice surgeons can't always implant it perfectly, and patients are getting younger, they're more active, so we need to test under a greater range of kinematic conditions. It's very important when designing total knee replacements that we understand the influences of geometry. Some of our more fundamental research has recently shown that basically the flatter the tibial inserts in a design of total knee replacement or partial knee replacement, then the lower the wear. And we've been able to demonstrate this with one of Dupuy's products with a partial knee replacement, which is a fairly flat tibial insert geometry, and this has lower wear than other competitors. We extend the scope of the testing to really understand how the knee replacement functions under more adverse conditions, and therefore how safe that implant is going to be in the patient.
We've developed methodologies for taking either human or animal tissue and treating it in a way that removes all of the living cells from the tissue. And when we do this, it leaves a tissue which has the same physical and mechanical properties of the original tissue, but the idea is when it's then implanted into a human recipient, that because there are no cells, there is nothing for the immune system of the recipient to recognise, and the tissue is not rejected. Essentially, what we're trying to do is to produce a whole series of replacement body parts, particularly for the cardiovascular and musculoskeletal system. And those parts will be available off the shelf for surgeons to use. They can implant into the patient to replace damaged and diseased tissue. We may be able to replace heart valves with regenerative heart valves. We may be able to replace at least parts of the knee joint or even the hip joint with regenerative scaffolds, which will give the patient something which after time will become a part of them and give them new tissues rather than metal and plastic. So it's really thinking about the future and what was going to come next to benefit patients and having that foresight.
My job is to make sure that there's a real commercial opportunity for these technologies. Companies often come to us with specific needs and requirements, and we work with those on a sort of a service basis. We actively go out and scout companies that would be interested in the technologies that we are developing.
What we have to do is link the clinicians with the people that are developing the technology, the scientists within the universities, and we have to get a dialogue between the two. So my job is really to make those connections and to get the information flowing between the two groups.
Leeds is unique compared to other universities because we employ professional project managers and people that have been in the commercial environment to help drive and develop these technologies to get them out and impacting on patients' lives.
We're asking the clinicians, the healthcare professionals, really what they need to improve the care to offer their patients. Wouldn't it be great if ...
We have the right balance of the team to allow us to accelerate that technology through to the clinic.
There is the technical risk. Will it actually work in practice? There is the clinical risk, which means will it improve the outcomes for patients in which it might be used? And then, of course, there is the commercial risk, because if it doesn't form a commercial proposition, it won't be used clinically.
We have an ISO 9001 accreditation and it makes us recognised by industry. We are in quite a niche in terms of what we do, so we do a lot of in-house learning, a lot of in-house training on equipment that is really bespoke at the front end of technology. In 2011, the Institute won the Queen's Anniversary Prize. Really proud moment for the Institute and everybody who's involved with it. We have over 100 stations of wear simulation, 30 stations of knee simulation, 4 hip joint simulators, 2 spine simulators. It's a good way of finding out how materials react against each other before they go out to manufacture for an orthopaedic component. We are the single largest academic institute in the world for preclinical wear testing. It's a really, really challenging environment to work in, really challenging, and we're right at the cutting edge of what we do.
implants are being implanted into younger and younger patients all the time, and those patients have much higher expectations.
So instead of cutting bits out and replacing them by artificial components, we're utilising the body's natural repair mechanisms to treat disease.
The people that work in the labs have a real love for the science.
Treatments which are going to be safe, effective and also cost effective, be cheaper in order to meet the healthcare challenges of the future.
For helping people and basically improving people's lives.
When I retire and look back on my career, what I'll be most proud of is the people.
We are the best at what we do, definitely.
Thank you for visiting us here at the Institute of Medical and Biological Engineering. We hope that you will learn a lot about our research activities and also about our world-leading research facilities. And we hope you'll come back to see us soon.